Utini. I open with a Jawa expression, Utini. That means something like, wow, hey, how are you? Get out of here. Not really clear what it means, but I've had Jawa on my mind lately because some Jawa, like, I guess, life form, stole the bike on my van and they rummaged through all the junk. I will tell you more about that later. But I'm still here in the Eastern Sierras, and it's very hard to leave this place because there's just so much to do. And with LA County being shut down, beaches shut down, and they're encouraging you to quarantine, I thought, well, I don't need any more excuses to justify spending more time here. What I would like to do is to give an overview of the whole Eastern Sierra region and help you get a better understanding of this part of California that is typically under the radar of most people when they come to California. You can see the Sierra Nevada mountain behind me, and this mountain chain runs up and down the spine of California, some 300, 400 miles. At the bottom begins around where Mount Whitney is. You can see my video on that. And then at the end, some few hundred miles up, is Lake Tahoe, an alpine lake in the Nevada region. And in between, it's full of just delightful things to discover. Two of the most well-known places is Yosemite National Park and then Mammoth Springs. But in addition to those four major tourist attractions, Mount Whitney, Mammoth Springs, Yosemite, and Tahoe, there are just a lot of gems and just delightful views and things to discover that's waiting for your curiosity and exploration just about every mile along this highway. I want to point out a couple of climate observations and geological observations that will help explain the Sierra now and why it's enjoyable for us to come. One thing to note, the Sierra Mountains is all volcanic, so the mountain is made of basalt and granite. And then you can see behind me that the Sierras on this side, it's basically like a sheer wall jutting up, sometimes up to a mile and a half, 2 miles in the sky from the valley floor. This wall is so steep and so long, for about 200 or 300 miles, it's very difficult to get to the other side. There are about 3 mountain passes that are used, but these are typically in the summertime and closed in the winter. So, for example, right behind me would be King Canyon National Park, Sequoia National Park. I can't get there from here, even though it's only 20, 30 miles at the bird flies behind me. I'll have to either go up to Yosemite and take the path in the summer, or make a couple hundred mile drive to go all the way around the mountains. Now that explains why it's not very crowded, because on the other side of the Sierra, facing the ocean, the decline is more gradual as it tapers off into California's huge Central Valley, and then you have the coast. So about 50 million people living in that part of California, Southern California, San Francisco, and the Bay Area, will typically access the Sierra on the western side. What that means, if you're on the eastern Sierra, this huge wall is an effective boundary blocking those 40 or 50 million people, and all you have to do is drive on the other side of the mountain to get less cloud. And if you're in Southern California, it's easily accessible because you can just drive to the entrance of the Sierra Range in the south. That's very easily accessible by car. Second observation I want to point out is, as you can see, we are in the high desert. It allows people driving to already be about 5,000 feet above sea level. And you have basically a view like an airplane if you were flying over 5,000 feet. And then as we approach Tahoe and Whitney, the valley will climb steeply to about 7,000, 8,000 feet above sea level. So it's a very spectacular location. In terms of climate, that means the weather at the same time, like today, can be anywhere from hot to warm to cool to chilly, depending on time of day and which elevation you are at. And the third observation I want to make is that this Great Basin is also marked by another mountain range to the west. So if you can look behind me, you can see the other mountain range, and if you notice, these mountains here are drier, more arid. Okay, and then in between, you can see the valley floor from that mountain range all the way to the Sierras over here. And then you can see the Sierras has more moisture, more growth and foliage up there. The reason why is what I learned in school. It's called the orographic effect. The word oro is the word for mountains. They also call it rain shadow. So these mountains is the wall blocking storms coming from the coast of California. So you can see on this side of the Sierras, not very well watered because the Sierras block the moisture. So if you're on the western Sierra, that's where all the stuff is growing, especially the sequoia trees. But then when you come into this valley, this mountain is a wall, keeping this dry out. But then this poor mountain range over here, you get the leftovers. So anything that misses the Sierra would not be mush, okay? So you can see a few dinky clouds up here. That explains why Death Valley, which is another mountain range, over gets almost nothing, because all the mountain ranges basically dry up everything before it gets to Death Valley. So basically what we have is about a 300-mile narrow valley, and the valley floor is about 5,000, 7,000 feet. If you look behind me, see if you can see the valley floor that's indicated by the brown, yellow, gold terrain, okay? Reaching back, and then see if you can identify the two mountain ranges. So you have the Sierras here, and then you have the desert mountain over here, and then you can see the valley just running through there. So this makes it kind of a nice, cozy area with great view, impossible to get lost because you always have the Sierras on one side that's facing kind of a northwest, and then you have the deserty mountains on the other. And so you know exactly which direction you're facing by looking at the mountain. And I want to make two more observations. First, if you look closely in the Sierras, you might note the melting snow. That's actually not snow, but glaciers. It is interesting to note that these are the southernmost glaciers in North America. And as you all know, glaciers is simply rivers of ice formed when it snows too much for the summer to melt. So all the snow gets compacted and then floated in the river. The snow will force its way down by gravity. The combination of glaciers and the granite basalt formation from volcanoes work hand in hand to create the spectacular views we see. If you would take a careful look behind me, you can see a sharp U-shaped valley that is just right below the series of glaciers over here. Okay, and that sharp valley was created by glaciers long ago. It was originally a river, and then a huge glacier just carved out and scooped out a valley. And so it is the work of these glaciers in time past that had carved all of these steep U-shaped valleys out of granite. And prior to Plato to Yosemite, which is a spectacular valley created by glaciers, so steep that it created a vertical granite wall that are very popular with rock climbing today. But you have many such valleys throughout Yosemite. Another famous one is Hetchy, just as spectacular at Yosemite. But if you want to tour Hetchy, you basically will need to get certified to scuba dive, because the San Francisco area filled up the entire Hetchy Valley to great controversy for their water needs. So Hetchy now is completely underwater, but thank goodness they did not do that to Yosemite, that we can now enjoy today. Now, this glacier action in the basalt granite mountain, in addition to creating all these valleys, also created alpine lakes, and the water will pour down by glaciers and basins throughout the mountain. And what's interesting is the glaciers will often create debris like rock, pebbles, sand, what have you, and these will often gather and accumulate to function as natural dams. And so all these natural material that's called moraine, if I'm saying that correctly, and this moraine creates natural dams. So you have tons of alpine lakes created by the glacial runoff high up in the Sierra. The most famous of the alpine lakes is, of course, Lake Tahoe. I want to point out a final geographic feature. If you look carefully behind me, you might notice a big patch of green on the valley floor that really stands out because everything is dead around it. This is what is typically called an alluvial setting. It's a very rich, fertile area, so everything's lush because of all of the water runoff coming down here. So all of these observations combine to create this spectacular area, to result in this spectacular area that is under the radar of most people that come here. Most people will visit the western side and never come over to this side because of the imposing Sierra Nevada. But for those who are in the know, this is a precious gem. So please keep it a secret. Don't tell anybody about this so that we can all enjoy it for ourselves. So consider making your next trip to the eastern Sierras. So much to do, so much to explore. You don't even have to plan your trip. Just find something to do when you're driving. There is really something to do every few miles on your trip. But please, please keep it a secret. Don't tell anybody. Don't like this video. Do not make this clip go viral, because if you do, you're going to spoil this for all of us, and we need to keep the crowd out. But do consider coming. It'll be a delightful vacation. Well, instead of the Jawa greeting that I used at the beginning of this video, let me close with a common German greeting used between friends. And this is the only time that staid, stoic Germans will think about breaking out into music during their daily living. Tschüss!